tell.
Yeah.
You can always tell, you know, if I'm speaking to a young male, I'm talking to a young female, I feel like when it comes down to a broken home, instantly, I think within 5 or 10 minutes of a conversation, or just from their viewpoints, you can tell.
You can tell that there isn't a male presence there.
Or if there isn't a male presence there, or there isn't a female presence there.
Just a presence
just a presence. If you don't have both presence there, you can kind of tell. And you can also tell when there's not presence in the grandparents.
Now, that's a very good. Would you mind expanding on that, please?
When we were growing up, grandparents were very, very present.
Very present, yeah.
Every weekend, we were dropped off at 3 o'clock after school. With all our cousins.
Yes.
And we grew up in grandma's house.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I don't know if that's more of a cultural thing or that's just of a generation thing. And I feel like now when it comes down to like grandparents, what we're seeing is they're not relied upon. The life experiences which they do have, that's not being passed down to their grandchildren. They're not as present.
That's very true.
They feel like they've had their kids.
Yeah.
This is your responsibility. Go and do what you're doing. Whereas I feel like we had a bit of that help. And I think our parents definitely did. And that was kind of like the norm. Whereas I feel like society now, with having to work longer, so retirement stretch, I think that plays a big part in it. And I feel like the burnout, you know, like
all very real.
And I think that has a knock-on effect on like the unit of a house. Like it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same.
So going back to the mental health of males in general, I agree with you. If grandma's in the house, if grandpa's in the house, they're telling you about yourself. And what I mean by that is they'll give you the necessary dressing down in the language that you will understand.
I think they also correct the parents.
They do, exactly.
I think they also correct the parents. I think they also keep the parents on the toes and give necessary respite.
Yes. And what I've experienced in that is they made the mistakes. The grandparents made the mistakes. They've softened up so that they can tell the parents, actually, you need to be there emotionally.
Well, there's a saying that goes, if you raise your children, you won't need to raise your grandchildren.
Say it again, please.
If you're raising your kids, you will not raise your grandkids.
Yes.
So, you know, sometimes when people are looking upon it and be like, oh, I've got to look after my grandchild, I've got to spend loads of time with them, their mum's bad, their dad's bad, they have a self-reflection to look at.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't raise their kids right. If they did, their grandkids would be raised right. They could spoil them.
Yes. Yeah, correct. Because all the discipline had been done already. They had disciplined their children, so their children knew exactly what to do with their children, and so forth and so on.
I think when it comes down to it, I think burnout, the household, and like the whole dynamics of how we now live, is probably what's going to cause a lot of the epidemic that is mental health and the way in which it is. And you know, like you're seeing everything that's on social media. I don't think it's necessarily capitalism. I don't think it's money orientation. I think it's like self-worth and community. And I feel like the self-worth and community is broken down. And that's broken down from the household. But it's not necessarily the household itself. It's the strain on the household.